All right. Okay. Thank you to all of you for joining this afternoon. I know that your exams got over very recently and you probably wanted to enjoy yourselves and take a break. But I'm particularly grateful to the students who volunteered to make presentations today in the afternoon on the issue of women's leadership, because directly after your exams, we got you working again. I think this issue is important. And just before I begin and we hand over, we're talking about the issue of women's leadership. And I know because of COVID, we've been sitting at home and watching a lot of movies. So I was also looking at a movie on Netflix the other day called Moxie. And if you have an account, maybe you can watch it. It's interesting to see how women students in the US also experience gender discrimination on an everyday basis. And in this movie, what it shows was how the students are really judged on the basis of their appearance and nothing else. And this is very similar to something that used to happen in the St. Stephen's College, one of the most premier and considered as the best college in Delhi University, where there used to be a list prepared called a chick list by the male students, and they would grade all the female students based on their physical appearance. And this list, it was finally stopped by a lawyer. She's become quite a well-known lawyer now, Vrinda Grover. And so I would say that someone like Vrinda has definitely shown leadership qualities because she's able to advocate for a larger issue, which is bigger than herself. Women Power Connect is an organization that works on women's leadership. We work on various issues concerning gender, and we work with youth in collaboration with the FES. With the issue of women's leaderships, we do realize that while women in administration are important, and passage of the Women's Reservation Bill and pushing for greater representation of women is definitely one of our core mandates. So is it important to have more women in the private sector? So is it more important to have women who have senior positions in their work? Women entrepreneurs are definitely leaders in their own right. Women who can create jobs for others are, and who are thinking beyond and thinking big are, again, definitely leaders. So with these few words, let's explore how we can, with the youth, generate the idea of and give more push to the idea of women's leaderships and hopefully instill more confidence amongst students to be bigger, better, the best. And so again, thank you. And with this, I'd like to request Ms. Damayanti Sridharan from the FES to please say a few words.
Thank you, Gayatri. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Genderlogue on women's leadership in the times of COVID. I'm happy that we are collaborating once again with Women Power Connect and also with Lady Irwin College, with whom we've been collaborating for quite a few years now, at least I think 3 to 4 years, if not more. And it's always been a pleasure to collaborate, and the kind of conversations and dialogues which we've had, I think, have really been something which the participants have gained a lot from. So once again, welcome to you all for this Genderlogue. And just for the people who don't know FES, I'd like to introduce the organization. Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, as the name suggests, is a German organization, and we work on the values of social democracy, that is solidarity, peace, and social justice. And very, very easily from the social justice aspect of it, we mandate gender justice. And in a country like India, very, very crucial that we give a special gender and gender equality. So quite a bit of.
Okay.
I think think someone needs. Yeah. As I was saying, given the situation in India and the indicators very well show us the inequality which women and other genders, also marginalized genders, face. So we have a specific focus on gender, and we work on issues of women in work, women in politics, gender sensitization. And it is in that context that we also organize gender logs. And this is part of the gender log series, which we started around 6-7 years back. As the name suggests, gender logs are basically dialogues on gender, and the issues which we discuss are mainly to see that how does one understand, challenge, and churn gender norms, and to move towards gender equality, be it in the field of societal development or economic development or political development. And basically, that is the touchstone for these dialogues, that it should impact one of these areas. So once again, welcome to you all. And I would really, I'm really grateful to Shivani Arora, Dr. Mansi Mishra, the students who are going to make the presentations, and all the participants who have joined today. And of course, a very, very special thanks to Lady Irwin College and to Dr. Sarita Anand for having collaborated with us today. And Gayatri and Aisha, though I consider them to be part of the same organization. So welcome once again to all of you. Thank you. I'll hand over to Aisha now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would be showing 3 short videos right now, and I'll give you a brief about each of them. The first video is taken from Delhi Hut. So last month, I visited Delhi Hut to interview a few women about what happened during COVID regarding loss of jobs and what did they really do when they were sitting at home. So I came across this one stall, which is run by 6 women in total. It's all women run. And they came from Ladakh to set up a stall here to sell organic products and clothes. And whatever profits they gained from this business, they used it to buy medicine for the poor people in Ladakh. And when upon interviewing, I got to know when they were back home in Ladakh during the lockdown period, they did not face issues in terms of food shortage because everything was homegrown. But as tourism was hit, people were not turning up. There was nobody to buy their products. So once the lockdown relaxations were there, they came to Delhi last month, set up a stall. Can you please mute yourself? So they came here to set up a stall and start selling their products. So I'll be showing a small clipping from that interview where she's talking about how the women in Ladakh are getting educated, they have become earning members, and are also getting engaged in small businesses now.
जो एजुकेटेड जो औरतें हैं, बहुत सारी औरतें हैं ज्यादा, वो लोग भी बहुत सारे काम करते हैं, अपना प्रोडक्ट्स बेचता है। तो हमारे ये अभी तो जो जवान लड़की होता है ना, वो एजुकेटेड हमारा अपना प्रोडक्ट जो खाना है ना, वो खाना होता है, हमारे साथ में होता है, मोमो होता है, फिर ब्रेड वेराइटीज, बहुत वेराइटीज ब्रेड बनता है ना, वो सारा बना के बेच देते हैं। फिर जो जमींदारों से वो सब्जी खरीद देते हैं, वीट अपना वीट होता है ना, पहले तो गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से उनको पैसे कहाँ मिलता था ना, अभी तो हमारे यूथ वाले लाके तो देता है। मैं बहुत खुश हूँ। सब बहुत सारे महिलाएं हैं और महिलाएं ही हैं, ज्यादा महिलाएं ही हैं। जब टीवी में होता है महिलाएं हैं, मैं बहुत खुश होती हूँ, प्राउड होते हैं उनके लिए। सच ऐसा करना चाहिए ना।
Yeah, so when we were interviewing her during this time, she was really happy how a lot of females are coming forward and coming into businesses and getting educated. I could really see how happy she was with these recent developments. Coming to the second video, this video is of Nykaa. I'm sure most of you are aware of this brand and the success story of Falguni Nair, the founder. Just to give you a brief background, in 2012, she decided to quit her job and embark on an entrepreneurial journey. Now, there are 2 reasons why we decided to show this video. Firstly, during the lockdown, we know how the Indian economy suffered. a lot, but e-commerce platforms like Nykaa still continue to stay steady during this crisis because everyone was home. Getting delivery of products was the only thing that we could rely upon. And secondly, entrepreneurship is an area which is male dominated. But becoming an entrepreneur and breaking the glass ceiling in a male dominated field needs to be talked about. And it's important to encourage women to take these risks in their career.
It was bound to grow in India. I think for a lot of women, I feel that they need to learn to dream. So I think the starting point for me was that I learned to dream, and it came naturally to me. But I dreamed, and then I was not afraid to pursue my dream. And of course, my family, including my husband, were very supportive. They allowed me the freedom to commit myself to the level I had to commit. For any dream to become a reality, it needs a lot of hard work. I had to work around the clock. I remember early days I used to work till 3 a.m. and then was back at office at 7 a.m. So I got a lot of freedom to put in that hard work that the business needed.
All over internet.
Yeah, coming to the last video, this is about the Umang movement in Ranikhet. This movement was born in 2000 out of a larger movement to promote sustainable self-development in the Himalayan region. When this movement was started, it was with only 3 members, but now there are more than 3,000 women who are involved in this movement. So the video basically dwells on how these women have turned into green entrepreneurs. These are locally owned by women farmers and producers who sell knitwear, organic jams, and jellies. And in addition to this, it emphasized the need to adopt transformative actions to support the livelihoods of rural women from the most marginalized communities.
Umang was born in 2001 out of a larger movement to promote sustainable, self-reliant development in Himalayan villages. The Pan-Himalayan Grassroots Development Foundation. Umang works with local women. It educates them and empowers them. It helps them take stock of their lives, hone their skills, work, but in a way that is responsible to the environment. The result is that the women of Ranikhet have transformed into green entrepreneurs.
This journey actually began way back in the late 1990s.
Thank you. I think that's it for the video. Gayatri, can you take over?
Okay, thank you, Aisha. So with this, then let me invite our first speaker to our first resource person, Ms. Shivani Arora. Shivani is an ex-lawyer from HNLU, and after her law, she joined the Pearl Academy of Fashion. 4 years ago, she founded the Bird Box Project, which is a slow fashion clothing brand selling on various online platforms. Maybe, Shivani, during the course of your presentation, you could inform us all what slow fashion is, because people may be interested in and not aware of what slow fashion is. She's worked with block printers in Rajasthan and knitters in Ranikhet during the course of the pandemic, and she was able to generate profits, maximize profits for the women working with her, and she's also generated employment for them. So Shivani, over to you, and I know you have a presentation, so I will share the screen and I will show the PPT.
Thanks, Gayatri. Yeah, so we could start the PPT. Should I share the screen?
I will do that. Can everybody see?
Yeah, it's on.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Gayatri, for the intro. So, I am a lawyer turned designer, and I'll be talking about how I got into block printing and knits and met wonderful artisan women. Next slide, please. A little bit about myself. I was born and brought up in Rajasthan. So I grew up seeing these beautiful block printing designs. And I got into contact with the Chipa community in Sanganer. They mostly have pastel shades of designs. And we are into slow fashion, which is basically making unique classic designs, which can be worn through years. And that is basically going away from the trend of fast fashion. Next slide. Next slide. And yeah, so during the pandemic, I've been working with block printers and knitters in Ranikhet. Next slide. So I want to explain briefly the print making process. I'm sure a lot of you might be aware. We take up an inspiration. For example, here we've taken preserved flowers. Then we sketch a print on paper, give it to the block printer who carves the print in wood. And then it is dipped into azo-free dyes and stamped on lengths of beautiful fabrics. Next slide. So what I've seen is that in all these years, the Chipa community were basically family businesses. So through generation, these families have been doing block printing, and as it was a family business, women got involved and they developed a lot of skill and a lot of heritage. But still, when I go to Sanganer factories, I see only 30% of block printers are women. And next slide. So yeah, so I got married last year and I went to Ranikhet with my husband. He has a farm over there. So I came across this wonderful collective of self-help groups called Umang, which has just been a video of which was shown just now. So they're making these beautiful designs, and I saw it as an opportunity to give my designs and get them made from these skillful women. So you can see the berets and the scarves that we got made. And also, Uttarakhand is divided into two regions, Kumaon Valley and Tehri Garhwal region. Recently, my father took up a farm in Laluri Khan, Tehri Garhwal region, where then in the neighborhood, there are women who are making beautiful bags and baskets out of natural fiber from Bimal tree called Selu. There also I saw an opportunity for a win-win situation where I could give my designs and use their expertise of making sling bags, which is still under progress. So next slide. So after meeting these women, what I've seen is that there's a lot of gap in participation and in income. There is a lot that is getting done and can be done. Key problem is that I saw is that women tend to put family first. So in Uttarakhand, as you can see in the picture, the women first finish the farming activities and the household activities and then come to work. Same goes for Sanganer women, they finish their house activities and come to work. And through all of these years, there's been a lack of exposure and training and trade opportunities for the women. So also in Uttarakhand, the men migrate to cities and the women are left behind. So that is a problem, and they essentially cannot move far away from their homes. In Sanganer, we see that for the work which needs more expertise, less women are involved. So there's kind of a glass ceiling over there which needs to be broken. And apart from that problem, the women don't work for long hours in outside relative factories in Sanganer. So, so coming to the question, next slide. So coming to the main question, the core question, what is the way forward? What I've seen is a lot of NGOs are grouping women into self-help groups. Like you saw in Umang, it is a collective of 1,300 women in self-help groups. So they're training them about their own credits, like they train them how to open their bank accounts. They get them a little bit of microfinance. They're also training them in skills like basketry, block printing, as well as how to communicate to the market. So a lot of progress has been made in that part. Even educational institutes like Pearl and NIF go to villages and do training sessions. But what is seen is that even after training and knowledge, they don't have a continuous access to the market. So they have questions like, even if I make these products, where will I sell them? So for that problem, they need to attend exhibitions. They have to get a direct contact with the clients. So if they do that, they will understand what is the need of the market. So for example, in this picture, you can see a modern Japanese and inspired sari design. So somebody in the villages won't know about, Japanese and design. So maybe they can get to know about that. So if they do understand, they'll understand what is needed in the market, and they will maximize their profit by talking directly to the consumer. This is one of the important needs. But thirdly, when it comes to ground realities, even after training and connecting them to the market, they are still face family resistance. So what a lot of people see is that they have to actually handhold them and tell them, you can balance work like this and work and home like this, maybe. And most of them are given like, we gave berets to make in their houses, and they had these tags which with who has made what. So this, they have to be handholded, and one of the most effective ways that has been seen is to create women champions. So if they see that someone in their community has done well, and you tell them, from your own village, see that lady has done this. So that is where the actual initiation and the actual change is seen in, like, that is like the ground reality. So lastly, what I want to say is that we can all be an element of change. We can open an app, an Insta account, put their stories into blogs, and maybe visit them for training. So we can all be a part of a change in their lives, whatever small part that may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. And please do stay on for the rest of the presentations, because there may be a few questions from the students after after.
Yeah.
Is presently heading the Research and Knowledge and Management Division at the Center for Social Research. She has conducted extensive research on the issue of women managers, and this was funded by the ILO. Currently, it's under her leadership that the Center for Social Research is offering an office assistant course, and many women have benefited and got employment as a result of this course, which teaches women to be office assistants. So over to you, Dr. Mansi.
Ma'am, you're on mute.
Dr. Mansi, you're on mute.
Sorry. So I thank Gayatri for taking this issue up and giving me this opportunity, and also WPC for giving me this opportunity to present before you our office assistant course. Before that, my topic was on glass ceiling. So before that, I want to speak the concept about it, and what are the possibilities of breaking this glass ceiling. So let me share my screen. So my topic today is breaking the glass ceiling, skill training for office assistant course. So when we talk about glass ceiling, exactly what it means? It means it is a metaphor. It means a certain degree of discrimination, which is an invisible barrier in accessing the opportunity, or the opportunity that is available due to certain preconceptual notions. So women and girls are often by long-standing notions of traditions, biases, beliefs about their opportunity and the accessibility and its employability. They are often have been discriminated in accessing these opportunities. The opportunities for women in leadership position is further get challenged by invisibility, exclusion, isolation, and lack of support within higher education. As we saw in my previous speaker's view, that a certain kind of isolation, exclusion is also there among these SHGs, so that their products are not that much marketed in the local city market or in the metro markets. So it can be observed that men choose to be monitored by other men. There are often this saying that women bosses are losses. So men normally don't like women bosses. That is a long-standing view. And often, like when we talk about this Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act at workplace, so women that becomes like, that is a women-friendly act which government have promoted to make every workplace a gender-friendly workplace. But in view of that, women have been restricted to enter that workplace, because if 10 women or more than 10 women or more than 10 persons are there and women are there, they have to have this body, this internal committee for post act. So we often see that it acts as a barrier to women's confidence, reinforce the concept of glass ceiling that prevent in advancement to leadership roles, and work against higher educational institutions also. So often we think that how it can be a barrier in higher education, but believe me, last month, like when we are talking to one of the pioneer organizations, educational organization institutions in our country, certain PhD students shared their experience with me, which says that they have been often joked, अरे लड़कियों से तो मैथ्स नहीं होता, अरे लड़कियां साइंस क्या करेंगे. And there are certain girl students also who shared this similar type of experience with us, saying that अच्छा जब हम मैथमेटिक्स करते हैं तो बोलते हैं नहीं लड़कियों को मैथमेटिक्स अच्छा नहीं होता. This acts as a barrier. So if any girl, any woman is good at maths, that has been considered as a extraordinary thing, like they normally are not considered of. So these things act as a barrier when women are also, like girl students also appear for PhD courses, and many of them, believe me, they said that they have to change professors, they have to change faculties, they have to change the thematic areas that they're considering to do PhD on. So these acts as a barrier in educational institutions. These acts as glass ceilings. So glass ceilings are often act as a power play, and the underlying system is based on ethnicity, gender, age, sexuality, social class, religion. Such factors affect glass ceiling. So the glass ceiling is often associated with women at work, but we have seen that women in higher education, professional education is also suffer from this. So how to break this glass ceiling? To break this glass ceiling, the first factor is to acknowledge it, accept it, so that we can win the half of the race in fighting against it. The second is raise your concern. So how to raise your concern? If a single person goes on and raise her concern in the organization, in the institution, in the area that she works in, then she would be targeted easily. So always take a group of people, or maybe the employees association or the cooperative societies, if you have, to work for it, to say against it. Encourage open conversation about it, so that opportunities to access on the basis of glass ceilings should not be hindered. Gender, race, or any other factors should not come in place where women have got to access to higher.
I think, Dr. Mansi, your voice is breaking. Maybe there's an internet connectivity that Dr. Mansi is facing. So maybe we could, should we just wait 1 minute and then see if she gets back? Or if there are any questions for the for Shivani, we could take those as well right now.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're
Okay.
back. You got disconnected in between and now you're back.
Yes, yes. So we saw that in 2019, before COVID pandemic, there are only 23.5% female in the labor force, according to the ILO statement. So after that, pandemic has definitely been very cruel on women, and both at family level and also at the work level, we have seen many women being dropped out, many women being excluded from the working workforce participation. So training and upskilling of women and girls be the utmost priority for everyone, because if women enter the workforce as unskilled workers, there is 100% possibility that there will be wage gap, there will be harassment, there will be seclusion from long-term employment. So to avoid that, CSR ventured into non-traditional skill training programs for women. And these courses, like we have offered women security guard training and office assistant training. So believe me, during this pandemic, we have started offering this course online also. So students, trainees are joining from far-flung areas of Assam, Odisha, Bengal, from down south. So people are joining in because these courses can also be provided online. And the National Skill Development Council, they have supported CSR in offering these courses online. So the examination, even the practical classes can also be explored to take online. So this is a brief about CSR online office assistant training program. On 8 July 2019, basically CSR started with its skill training center at Gurgaon. We have a standing skill training center in Gurgaon, but when we encountered this pandemic, we thought of offering it online. So this course is available both online and offline, and students from far-flung areas can also join in it. We focus mainly not only giving them the content-wise training, but we focus on providing them 3 E's, that is education, exposure, and experience. So we tie up with different organizations, different companies to give them exposure so that there can be experience-based tours, observation-based tours by training. Our program is also structured in a way that it aims at giving a holistic empowerment to the trainees that they join in by making their overall personality development, entrepreneurship development. Today, the key word is entrepreneurship, and if women can train themselves to become entrepreneurs, the sky is the limit. So more than 80% of our trainees have entered workforce. We also do a handholding in giving them employment opportunities. So all women are capable of breaking the barriers, no matter where they are from, how they come to the workforce, or how they choose to do their higher education or professional education. And there is no barrier. Only your willpower should be strong enough to support you. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you both to Shivani and to Dr. Mansi for their presentations. Just before we start with the student presentation, and we'll be starting with Ishika Bansal and Vaishali, we have a little bit of time. If anyone wants to ask either Shivani or Dr. Mansi anything, maybe you can put it on the chat. Or you can even unmute yourself and ask if you have any question. I saw one hand go up.
Yes, please. Any queries?
Okay, then I think maybe we can go ahead and start with the student
Will be there,
presentation.
Gayatri. So if there is any query, we will definitely answer.
Fine, thank you. So with that, then I'd like to invite Ishika Bansal and Vaishali. I think they are the first presenters. Please, if I'm correct, the topic that you will be presenting on is barriers women face in getting ahead. So please go ahead.
No, ma'am. We will be presenting on benefits of women leadership.
All right. Sorry, my mistake. So.
Okay. So good afternoon, one and all. I am Vaishali. I, along with Ishika Bansal, we will be presenting on the topic of women leadership and actually the benefits of women leadership. And so I'll be presenting my screen. One second. Yeah. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah, Vaishali, it is.
Okay, thank you. The benefits of having women and girls in the leadership roles is actually our topic. And so we would like to make this presentation more interactive and engaging. So I would like you all to answer this a rapid fire round kind of question. So please open your chat box and you have just 10 seconds and you have to name a woman who inspires you, the women leader who inspires you the most. And I would like Ishika to keep a tab and tell me all the names which are coming in the chat box.
Sure. So we have Vinita Bali, ma'am. Kamla Bhasin, ma'am.
Okay.
Kiran Bedi.
Great.
Michelle Obama. Priyanka Chopra. Nice. I'm liking things.
Nice.
Even they inspire us.
Thank you so much all for participating.
Raj, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so women are the powerful agents of change who are constantly growing and achieving new heights of work. Traditionally, we see if we imagine and close our eyes, so the image of a leader will be more of a masculine, more of a male dominant image. But the women leaders have emerged, such as Ela Bhatt, Malika Dutt, Hillary Clinton, Indira Nooyi, Christine, and others have proved their place in the leadership. One breakthrough has changed the patriarchal definition of the leadership, we can say. So women leaders have definitely come up and changed the patriarchal norms and patriarchal the traditional thinking of who a leader is and how a leader should be. They have definitely achieved milestones in the leadership. So leadership is, we can say that leadership is not definitely gender specific. It is a set of leadership qualities that are inherent or cultivated in the persons or persons who develop themselves into great leaders with mass following. So women have also paved their ways in dominant fields like entrepreneurs or education or engineering, health. At all levels, we can now today women can be seen in all different levels today. So before discussing actually the benefits of women leaders, we would like you to have a look what all characteristics of women leadership are. So transformational leadership style is one of the major characteristics of a women leader. That women leaders function as a role model for their subordinates. Let's say spend a lot of time with their team, like coaching them, grooming them, developing their personality. Women readers focus on more of a teamwork, and like they believe in more flatter organizational structures, and not only just achieving primary goal of an organization, but also transforming the members and the stakeholders of the organization into a better person. Next is task focused. So women leaders are more of task focused, like of completing all their tasks within assigned deadlines. So like completing day-to-day tasks from client meetings to stakeholders to, if we talk about development sector, so they are more focused with achieving all their deadlines. Next is promote cooperation and collaboration. So women leaders are always seen as promoting promoting collaboration in their organization. A paper from National Bureau of Economic Research, a non-profit-based organization in USA, states that women are better judge of their abilities and therefore are not averse to suggestions and help from their team members. That means women do not usually hesitate to ask for help, even for themselves being a leader, nor hesitate in giving suggestions to other in a positive way. Next is communication style. So as I talked about transformational leadership style, concluding from that, their communication style is more of a participatory, since they focus on self-mobilizing their members or the members of the organization. So their approach is more of a democratic, and they do not focus on the more of a traditional of a control or a autocratic style. Rather, they are more participatory in a approach. That's why they focus on more flatter organization structures and allow more space to their members in accomplishing goals. Next is self-branding. This is more of a suggestion here, but unlike male counterparts, women leaders often appear to be modest and silent about their accomplishments. Like women leaders, it is necessary actually for women leaders to brand themselves, to talk about their achievements and their skills. And it is important for them to see themselves as emerging women leaders among society and others. So the next is actually the benefits of women leadership that will be taken up by Ishika. Over to you, Ishika.
Thank you, Vaishali. Hello, everyone. So I would like to talk about the benefits of having women leadership. So I think there are a lot of benefits of having women in leadership roles, and there is no institution that can function effectively if we don't have women's equal participation in the leadership activities, because they create a perspective that brings competition and collaboration to the organizations and teams. Next slide, please, Vaishali. Thank you. Women basically unify diverse groups. So I think that diversity refers to the fact that there's an existence of different people with different interests and characteristics and attitudes. So women leaders basically sees diversity as an advantage to have a balanced and unique relationship among the group, and they also tend to involve the qualities of unity and cooperation in the team, and so as to achieve the goals of an organization. And that is why women leaders advocate for more inclusive and diverse and representative decisions among the organization, and which is basically a benefit to the organization as well as the country. So next one, Vaishali. Yeah, so women basically improve interpersonal relationships. So in order to be a successful leader, every person had to have an ability to communicate well with people, both internal and external to the organization. So I believe that within an organization, women leaders operate both upward and downward communication in order to have a effective and timely communication among their employees and the departments of the organization. And also women are better listeners, and this ability to have patience to take suggestions or opinions from others is a very good quality of having good interpersonal communication among the organization. So women are completely better at both listening and communicating, which builds in interpersonal relationships. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah. So women value accountability. So accountability is a very important leadership quality that can be possessed by leaders, especially women leaders possess this quality. They are, they usually shoulder the responsibility of any loss if, happens in by any other employee or members of the organization, and they motivate their team members to do better each day. And if a team member has taken up an assignment, so they motivate their team members to take on that assignment without any compunction and fear. And while they're leading, they ask their they try to have no disruption, with an intention to keep the relations with their stakeholders intact. And they also contribute largely towards forging unity and cohesion among their team members, so that they never let their team members down or the people who follow them willingly. Yeah. So the last one that I would like to talk about is that women embrace collaboration among their teams. So women leaders have the ability to collaborate with their colleagues, with their clients and employees across various teams, various departments, and the functions that they play. And that is why they are not averse to suggestions or help from their other team members or colleagues. So in this way, they are a transformational leader, which understand the individual needs and aspirations of their teams, and at a very personalized level. And their approach is very personalized, and this is how they bind the team members strongly and work towards the common goal of the organization. Yeah. So now we would like to talk about some women leaders that we are very inspiring for all of us. So can you just next slide please, Vishali? Yeah, so we would like to first talk about Malala Yousafzai. She's a women leader who advocates basically for female rights and education, and she also has an organization, that Malala Fund, that is led by Malala. So she provides girls with 12 years of education there to achieve their potential and create a positive change within their families and communities by gaining education and good knowledge. And through her organization, she works with different local leaders and partners, which helps in increasing the safety and safe and quality education for girls. And she even took a bullet for education of girls, and she advocates for policy changes and resources that tend to prioritize girls' education. So she's really a true inspiration for all of us. Yeah. Yeah. Secondly, Reshma Saujani, I would really want to talk about her. She's the founder of and CEO of Girls Who Code, and she is a women leader who aims to close the gender gap in the world of technology. Her organization, Girls Who Code, basically this aims to empower girls with the computer science education and skill sets that are needed to pursue the opportunities of 21st century. And by moving towards gender parity in computing fields, she wants girls to be more equipped with the tools that they need to innovate and incite the factor of social change. Also, I would like to mention that I really love the book. She wrote a book, Brave Not Perfect, and that is especially important if we consider the fact about women in leadership, because women, especially when they're leaders, they tend to be perfect while taking any step or decisions in their organization or among the team members. And I really feel that women need to be more brave in their decisions as compared to be perfect and as a leader, and that is how the world will grow. Yeah, thank you everyone, and this was a presentation by I and Vishali. If any questions, we are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ishika and Vaishali. I'm glad we are discussing flatter workplaces. And as a good and a positive thing, as opposed to hierarchy, which has been the norm for strict hierarchies. Maybe we'll take the questions right at the end. Next, we have Anuradha. So Anuradha, if you could please introduce your topic.
Hello, everyone. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are. Go ahead.
Yes. So a very warm welcome and good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Anuradha, and today I'll be talking about the barriers women and girls face in getting ahead in their life and how they can overcome it. So I'll be sharing my thoughts by reciting a poem. So the title of my poem is लड़कियों की जिंदगी आसान नहीं होती कि भाई की लाडली है और है हर फिक्र से अनजान कि भाई की लाडली है और है हर फिक्र से अनजान माँ का सपना है और पिता का अभिमान पर क्या जानते हैं आप कि नन्ही सी इन परियों की एक दायरे से बाहर कभी उड़ान नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती जन्म लेते ही माँ इनके शादियों के गहने जुटाने लगती हैं क्या सही है क्या गलत है हर बात पे समझाने लगती हैं देखो तुम लड़की हो अपना जरा ध्यान रखना जमाने को बदलना तो मुमकिन नहीं इसीलिए बेटा अपने कपड़ों का जरा ख्याल रखना सुनो किसी की बातों में मत आना और कुछ भी कभी गलत लगे तो सबसे पहले आकर मुझे बताना जमाने के साथ चलना है इन्हें बेशक सिखाया जाता पर साथ ही एक दायरा भी समझा दिया जाता है खुद की ही जन्मी इस दुनिया में ये खुद ही महफूज नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती बचपन से ही कभी
Anuradha, you got disconnected in between. Are you back now? Okay, let's give, Anuradha, are you back?
I think she left.
Okay, I think then what she must have got disconnected. So that was going very well. So maybe what we'll do is we'll move on to the next, and then after that we'll get back to Anuradha and she can start again. So next is Vishakha. I think Vishakha is going to present on how to deal with parents and families who are architects of girls' leadership.
No, ma'am. It's
Okay,
what are the role of educational institutions for women and girls to become leaders?
Okay, sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So today I'm going to present my presentation on like my thoughts on what can educational institutions do to empower women and girls to become leaders. Next slide, please. So first, I'll talk about some statistics. According to Catalyst, this is a global non-profit that works with over 800 companies around the world to accelerate women into leadership, found that the proportion of women in senior roles is incrementally 29% of senior management roles were held by women in 2019, the highest number ever recorded. Secondly is, however, the proportion of women in senior leadership differs by roles. Women make up 43% of human resources directors, but only 17% of sales directors, and 16% of chief information officers are female. And this goes to show that there is a much more to be done to empower women and girls in leadership roles across the industry and across the world. And even though the educational institutions is among one of those industries that are still struggling to bridge this gender gap, and universities can serve as a ideal platform for encouraging women to become leaders. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so if we talk about bringing the issue into limelight, despite the vast gender pay gap and underrepresentation of women in leadership roles, many students are still unaware of the fact that these some problems are still existing. And this is worrisome because both men and women believe that our leadership team is dominated by only one gender, that is men, and which is basically a norm. And writing in the conversation lecturer in management learning and leadership at Leinster University, a foreign university, Valerie Stead said, bringing gender into the classroom can influence the next generation and foster equality through education. Even the gender studies should be integrated into all schools and university, not just at the humanities stream level. And so the students can challenge the status, and female students can be empowered to think of themselves as leaders in the future. And also male students can also benefit from this becoming aware of the situation that gender equality is important, and learning about how diversity is important in leadership teams and leadership positions. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, if we talk about some if we talk about some supportive groups, so at universities level, university can foster a culture of support by ensuring some clubs and association and programs in department for students to develop skills and network with female professionals. And they can also hold talks and workshops that bring in female guest speakers who can empower like women to work towards becoming leaders in the future. For example, one of the academic women in leadership, that is AWIL program at the University of New South Wales, aims to build a visible cohort of high potential talented academic women to lead with confidence and competence by providing workshops, seminars and mentoring. And also at the Cornell University, the Executive Leadership in Academic Medicine is a one-year program that basically provides a leadership training, and with extensive coaching, networking and mentoring opportunities that is that basically aimed at expanding the national pool of qualified women candidates for leadership in academic positions and academic medicine, dentistry and public health also. So according to the website, this program is dedicated to develop the professional and personal skills required to lead and manage in today's complex healthcare environment, and with special attention to the unique challenges that is faced by women in leadership positions. And then associations like these at Cornell universities and at AWIL program, that it can help the students to navigate the challenges that might face in their industries level, and when it comes to achieving some leadership positions, and they can play a vital role in helping them to develop and honor some leadership skills. Yeah, next slide. Then we can at universities level, we can also connect female students to mentors. And mentorship, as we know that mentorship can play a very big role in shaping a young person's futures. And university can connect female students with mentors who hold senior or some leadership positions, so that they can inspire them, whether at the university level or at their chosen industry, so that they can shadow and learn from them for that particular leader. Or so their mentor doesn't have to be female, as female students can still learn from the leadership skills from male leaders. And then lastly, opportunities like these allow female students to develop skills that position them as engaged as managers and leaders in their respective fields. Yeah, thank you everyone for your patience and attention. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you, Vishakha. That was very nice. I think Anuradha, if you are back, then maybe why don't you recite the poem from the beginning again, because we were in the flow of it and we missed out.
Yeah, so sorry, ma'am. I got disconnected. Network issues. Ma'am, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are. You are audible. Go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. So the title of my poem is लड़कियों की जिंदगी आसान नहीं होती कि कभी भाई की लाडली है और है हर फिक्र से अनजान कि भाई की लाडली है और है हर फिक्र से अनजान माँ का सपना और है पिता का अभिमान। पर क्या जानते हैं आप कि नन्ही सी इन परियों की एक दायरे से बाहर कभी उड़ान नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती। जन्म लेते ही माँ इनके शादियों के गहने जुटाने लगती हैं। क्या सही है क्या गलत है हर बात पे समझाने लगती हैं। देखो तुम लड़की हो अपना जरा ध्यान रखना जमाने को बदलना तो मुमकिन नहीं इसीलिए बेटा अपने कपड़ों का जरा ख्याल रखना। सुनो किसी की बातों में मत आना और कुछ भी गलत लगे तो सबसे पहले आकर मुझे बताना। जमाने के साथ चलना इन्हें बेशक सिखाया जाता है पर साथ ही एक दायरा भी समझाया जाता है। खुद की ही जन्मी दुनिया में ये खुद ही महफूज नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती। बचपन से ही कभी रूप कभी रंग तो कभी व्यवहार को लेकर टोकी जाती हैं ये। तुम अकेले कैसे रहोगी कहाँ रहोगी क्या करोगी कह कितने अवसरों से रोकी जाती हैं ये। कहने को लड़कों के बराबर होती हैं ये। एक बार फिर ध्यान से सुनिएगा। कहने को लड़कों के बराबर होती हैं आज पर मौका मिले तो आंखें इन पर सेकी जाती हैं। कभी जन्म से पहले तो कभी हवस का शिकार बना कूड़े में फेंकी जाती हैं ये। गलतियां कई नजरअंदाज करती हैं बेशक पर नजरिए से कभी ये किसी के अनजान नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती। एक घर में बचपन बीता और दूसरे में जीवन बिताना पड़ता है। माँ भाई बहन पापा सबका प्यार मानो कुछ पल में ही भुलाना पड़ता है। एक हाथ से कई रिश्ते छूटे और दूसरे हाथ को नए रिश्तों के लिए बढ़ाना पड़ता है। कई बार मन मिले या ना मिले पर उम्र भर बेमन ही कई बंधनों को निभाना पड़ता है। किसी एक शख्स की खातिर अपनी पूरी जिंदगी बदल देती हैं फिर भी इनकी उम्र भर अपनी कोई खास पहचान नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती। बात बात पर आंखें गीली हो जाती हैं इनकी बेवजह बेतुकी बातों पर अक्सर रो जाती हैं ये। हाँ को ना और ना को हाँ कहती हैं ये। मुझसे कुछ बिना कहे ही अपनी सारी बात मनवाती हैं ये। बातें ये खुद की खुद तक रख नहीं पाती हैं। बस तुझे ही बता रही हूँ प्लीज किसी को बताना मत कह खुद ही सबको बताती हैं ये। आदतों में गलतियां शुमार हैं बेशक पर नियत इनकी कभी बेईमान नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती। साल में सैकड़ों बार इन्हें देवी बना पूजा जाता है फिर महीनों के उन दिनों में ना जाने क्यों अलग सोचा जाता है। बहुत से रिवाज बने तो हैं इन दिनों के लिए पर अफसोस इस दर्द पर किसी का ध्यान नहीं जाता है। लड़की है ठीक से काम तो कर पाएगी ना या कभी बीमारी कभी फैमिली तो कभी कुछ और ही बहाने बनाती रह जाएगी। भगवान के दिए हर दर्द सर आंखों पर जमाने तेरी ये सोच मुझे बर्दाश्त नहीं होती और जितना सोचते हैं हम लड़कियों की जिंदगी उतनी आसान नहीं होती। चंद पंक्तियों से मैं अपने विचार पर पूर्ण विराम देना चाहूंगी कि छूले हर ऊंचाई किसने तुझको रोका है। बात कल कुछ और थी फिर से आज मौका है। पर खोल के हो आजाद, डरना इस आसमान से, कमर कस ले आज, लड़ना अभी जहान से। ये बंदिशें, ये बेड़ियां तुझको ना रोक पाएंगी, इरादों को शमशीर कर ये खुद ही टूट जाएंगी। सर झुके थे, सर झुकेंगे फिर तेरे सामने, थी मंजिल कब किसी की, तुझे झुका दे अपनी शान में। तूने तो इतिहास रचा है अब तक अपने काम से, बनी है और बनती ही रहेगी गाथाएं तेरे नाम से। तू किसी से कम नहीं है, आज फिर से ये मान ले, बहती धरा को मोड़ दे, अपने ताकत को पहचान ले। अखंड तेरी शक्ति है, प्रचंड तेरी काया है, शिकस्त होकर गिर पड़े जिसने भी आजमाया है। चीर दे फलक चीरा है फलक को तूने, ध्वज को ऊंचा लहराया है, सर उठा के देख ले, वो वक्त फिर से आया है, वो वक्त फिर से आया है। थैंक यू, दैट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माय साइड।
Thank you, Anuradha. I can only echo what is being already said in the chat, which is how beautiful and inspiring this recitation was. Okay. Next, I think we have Anshika. Anshika has made a poster.
No, ma'am, I have made a presentation on barriers.
Okay, I'm so
and
sorry. I think I've got everyone's confused. So I will just ask everyone to to introduce their own topics. Go ahead, Anshika.
Yes, ma'am. Can I request Palak to present my screen?
Is it visible now, Anshika?
Yes, so before I start my presentation, I would like you all to answer my question, like, have you all faced any barriers as a woman ever in your lifetime?
Yes.
I'm sure most of us have faced some or other kinds of barriers in our lifetime. So I would like to now start my presentation. Can I request Palak to next slide? So before I start, I would like to discuss some of the key terms. So the first one is motherhood leadership penalty, which means mothers with low participation rates in managerial positions. Then we have organizational culture. It means that it is not normal for women to take the positions of leadership usually. And the next is leadership pay gap. The difference in average hourly wage of all women and men across a workplace as monitored by SDG number 8 indicator, the gender pay gap is not same as unequal pay, which is not paying men and women for different performing the same or similar work. Next slide. Next term which I would like to discuss is political apathy. Women are usually not given preferences by political parties while choosing candidates for contesting elections. Women are seen as incompetent to fight elections and to get elected to legislatures. Next term is glass ceiling, which means the existence of intangible and unacknowledgeable impediments that obstruct the advancement of women as the weaker section of the society in professional or public life. I'm sure most of us have faced glass ceiling. Old boy network is an informal system through which men are thought to use their positions of influence to help others who went to the same school. It means like men referring to men only. Next slide. So what are the barriers? Barriers are simply any conditions that makes it difficult to make progress or to achieve an objective. So the three barriers for women advancement are unequal opportunities, uncertainty, and glass cliffs. Next slide. So I'll be talking about different barriers. So the first one is societal barriers. So these can be classified into domestic responsibility, cultural coded linkages between leadership and masculinity, family work and time constraints, non-permissive environment, and patriarchy. Then we have organizational barrier. These are glass ceilings, professional competencies, fewer chances for promotion, and discriminating social structures, low representation in leadership positions. Next is gender barriers. So these are gender pay inequity, sexism and sexual harassment, socio-cultural gender discrimination, political apathy, and gender disparity. Next slide. So the next is structural barriers. So structural barriers are related to the structures. So these are powers and resources, lack of mentorship, training and collaboration that women don't have, risk taking and rushing in because women are usually not acknowledged to take risk and rush in. Institutional barriers. These are lack of mentors, like women are not given enough mentors, exclusion from social gatherings, old boys school network, insufficient donor funding, and the other barriers are lack of access to land, capital, financial resources, and technology. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so before I talk about how to overcome these barriers, previous slide. So before I talk about how to overcome these barriers, I want to talk about gender equality versus gender equity. So equity and equality are not the same terms. So I want to explain the difference. As you can see in the picture also, for for giving equality, we are thinking to achieve equality, then we should consider that in equality, everyone should be at the same par, at the same level, which is not the case. Women are obviously not at the same power as men. So in this case, gender equity comes into role. So gender equity is access to the same opportunities, but first we must ensure that equity is achieved and we are taking everyone into the path. So next slide. How can we overcome these barriers? So we should recruit more women employees frequently. We should provide trainings. We should encourage women-friendly culture. We should provide provisions for women's support and effective career mapping, because women are usually not given choices and to choose their career. Flexible work schedules, equal opportunities, implementing paid paternal and maternal leave. So I would also like to give an example, like Virat Kohli recently took paternal leave for Anushka Sharma, and it was a lot criticized, and everyone was either criticizing it or supporting it. So this is something that is a change in the attitude of a male dominated society towards women, which is difficult, but yes, it is through which we can overcome these barriers. Next slide. Okay, some of the more are necessary constitutional and legal measures to build a secure social environment, equal consideration of women and girls at par with boys and women in families and society. So it needs mindset change, change in organizational and corporate policies to allow women to reach the top, stringent laws and the effective implementation against women abusers, design an education system suitable for women, and making secure social environment where women are free from fear or threats to their physical and mental well-being. Next slide. So these are some of the recommendations: that we should adopt zero tolerance policies on sexual harassment and gender-based violence. We should incorporate a commitment to gender equality within program policies, vision, mission statement, and core strategies. We should always go for skill-based hiring and tracking gender pay. But I would also like to make a point, like women are usually not given enough skills, so we should first give them training, and then we should consider feminist research design that seeks to challenge the intersecting power hierarchies that negatively affect women, and enabling them to fight against domestic violence in any form and
What
lead a
we'll do
safe family
is we'll
life.
schedule a session for tomorrow morning, perhaps.
uh, Next slide. So I have done with my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Anshika. And yeah, that was useful. And I'm glad to know that sexual harassment is an issue that you're all aware of, and are aware of the policies that are being put in place to deal with sexual harassment at workplaces. So last but not least, I think we have Palak. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm quite sure Palak has a poster.
Yes, ma'am, I have a
Oh,
poster.
great. Good.
Okay, I'm presenting my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Palak Khanna, pursuing Masters in Development Communication and Extension from Lady Irwin College. I have designed a poster on the topic, do you think there are any benefits of having women and girls in the lead roles? So if I intelligibly answer it, it should be a big yes. In the poster, I have shown today's women who are more aware, intelligent, woke, and independent about their rights and responsibility. If I put the beam over the central theme that describes the benefit, it does not only talk about women, but also men. Here I have highlighted 6 major benefits of having women in leadership role. So first one talks about the extending collaboration. So women are more cooperative with good networking skills and comes with the ability to easily collaborate with the colleagues and clients. Second talks about diverse culture in the organization. Creating more opportunities for women starts with creating a more inclusive environment that builds the foundation of gender equality in the workplace, where women can thrive in the leadership roles. Third talks about financial performance. So our economy does not discriminate against the money earned by a woman. It gets added up in that. Better financial performance of the organization leads to a better economic state where there are greater number of job opportunities, better productivity, and more development. Articulate and multifaceted. Women are sculpted as multitasker. They are equipped with such skills of managing multiple tasks at once since their birth. And so how about utilizing those skills in development and breaking the norms? The 2 main benefits that involve men, that men can break the norms. As we know that patriarchy does not only harm women, but men too. Men suffer from the rigid societal norms. They are considered as default breadwinners. With the increased participation of women in jobs will ease their burdens from their shoulders. Last but not the least, men can be a better parent and fulfill their other responsibilities also. Men can spare time for their families and run family in a more involved way that builds the family relationship and inculcate the value of feminism, generation equality in their children and hence in the upcoming generation. If we set more example around us and follow the innovative gender inclusive solutions, women will feel the urge to stand up as their comparative needs and felt needs will give them a push to grab the opportunities. So I would like to end up with a quote by Michelle Obama, where she has quoted that we do not want women to be like men. We are not just fighting for women to put on suits and to don the habits and perspectives of men to be accepted as leaders. No, we need that feminine energy, that perspective, that approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Palak. I particularly liked the diversity point of view that you brought in, because with diversity in itself, you manage to improve the quality of whatever it is you are producing or selling or trying to promote. With this, then I think that is the last speaker, the last student presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Thank you. So now I would like to invite Dr. Sarita Anand to say the last few words, and after that, we'll take a few questions. But before I introduce Dr. Sarita Anand, I would really like to take this opportunity to thank her for helping in coordinating this webinar. I'm really very grateful to her for the support that she has extended. Dr. Sarita Anand is an associate professor at the Department of Development, Communication and Extension in Lady Irwin College. She has been undertaking research for the past 30 years on gender development and communication for social change. She's currently the center lead for the UNICEF-supported Roshni Center of Women Collective-led social change, which undertakes intervention for women self-help groups. So maybe you also have experience of having worked with self-help groups in Uttarakhand and in Ranikhet. Maybe you do. She has also, she's authored a number of publications, including Facilitating Dialogue, Enhancing Results for UNICEF, and Dynamics of Human Communication, which is for students. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you, FES and WPC for inviting me here. And it is indeed heartwarming to have heard our speakers, Ms. Arora and Dr. Mishra, and definitely our students, whom of course, we have some idea of how our students think. And it is very interesting to see, the kind of wish our students have reflected in their conversations about where do they think are the challenges which lie, and what are the possible ways by which some of these challenges can be overcome. So, but I think the overarching thing I would like to comment on is that when we talk about women in leadership roles, I mean, there's no denying, one of the group presentation was about, the importance of women in leadership. So the whole idea that there's no denying now, there's enough evidence. We all the organizations like WPC and CSR and others have been working now for a very long time to document this kind. Academic researches are available, and we have seen the scenario has been fast changing, and at least the last 20-30 years have been very good for the feminist movement globally. And India definitely has been a front runner for some of these things. The first of it is our constitution has been the most progressive. So, the kind of enabling environment through policies which can be created, whether the articles of 15, 45, and coming on to the 73rd and 74th Amendment to Indian Constitution, which created space for political participation of people. I think these are some of the established facts now. And right in the beginning, you talked about women lawyer and people who can make such a difference, that who have been the front runners and who have truly been a leader to make a change for generations to come. So I'm reminded of Indira Jaising, who was the front runner for Domestic Violence Act. And this is how, they have been so instrumental in creating that change, and how law can make it possible for a lot of women to not go through a wrong channel, or at least to acknowledge domestic violence as a problem in itself. So this is only just to talk about a little example in terms of leadership. So I just would like to, quote a statistic or a figure, though we have been saying that, but it is the educational institutions who seem to be, which are the places which are the most gender equitable space. And I take this as opportunity, as being a part of an institution of higher learning. And the statistic is that in India, there are just about 14% women parliamentarians. There are just about 12% of all the engineers who work in India are women. There are only 17% of all the allopathic doctors are women. So, and about, the figure for IS officers is little better. There are 25% of the IS officers are women. So, these are the way, this is the place for women to take up leadership roles. And this gap shows us if there are, that at least larger the gap, larger is the opportunity. I would like to see it like this. So that is where those gender gaps exist, and those are the places which we women have to occupy. And educational institutions definitely can play the most, catalytic role, because what educational institutions do is they expose students to new ideas. They expose students to new role models. For example, these students who have been part of this webinar today, those who spoke, those who heard Shivani, a young woman entrepreneur, those who heard Mishra talking about, what the glass ceiling is. So, the exposure to these ideas, exposure to these people, meeting them face to face, the students shared those stories of Malala, and, there are stories of Indira Nui and Kiran Bedis and others. Educational institutions do that. They not only help to nurture what the young women can think and can dream, and what it needs to reach there. This first-hand exposure definitely helps them to have role models, and specifically for those girls who may not find such role models in their immediate family environments. So school and college is the next socializing agent for young girls. And that is where I see, educational institutions can play a great role. Right in the beginning there, Minty said, this gender log is a forum which you people have been doing. And I think it is across Delhi University colleges when you have interacted. And, a special kind of webinar, we get a lot of opportunity to listen to experts who are, on the topmost positions. But creating these opportunities for young girls to become panelists, to become, be at par with people who know, and, to pour their heart out, like what Anuradha said. And I found, a group of emotions of somewhere there is a hope of a better future, somewhere there's a stress of, what lies behind. And because India of 21st century in 2021, as I often say, that we are a microcosm of many different Indias. There is an India where there are topmost leaders like Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, who can be an entrepreneur and be successful. And there is a woman, since yesterday on TV, whose whole family has been kind of murdered by her husband. So, we live between these two kind of extremes. And this is the reality. And therefore, I mean, not to get bogged down by reality check definitely is very, very important for all of us. And I think educational institutions giving this opportunity for students to think, to have a worldview, and then an opportunity to express their ideas. That is the best way to hone, or to give them opportunity to hone their leadership skills. Being part of student unions, being part of student societies, being part of cultural club activities, organizing students' festivals, organizing events in the departments and colleges. I think educational institutions have been doing a wonderful job. And definitely, if there are a few others, maybe in small towns, and those in rural areas who do not get an opportunity to, get exposed to this kind of environment, when more and more women will go through the higher education systems or to the school systems, definitely they themselves become role models for people who look up to them. And therefore, I think education becomes a great opportunity. And those girls who are, part of educational systems must understand that, the kind of specifically, students who are part of a kind of a government subsidized education systems. This is one responsibility we all have. The expenditure made by the government on each student is much more than what is contributed by her family on her education. And that is why, we have this responsibility that we pay back to our society, we pay back to our family, we pay back to our nation by taking this on. When I was giving you a statistic about, only the 17% allopathic doctors, but it is the number of women doctors who pass out from medical schools is much higher, but those who pursue active career as a doctor is much lesser. So there are so many such women lost. Similarly in lawyers, and similarly about other professions. So there are so many women who go through the educational systems, who get all they can, but it is again they're getting bogged down by what some of the students have said about social norms. Social norms do shift. And when more and women, go that hard way, we definitely contribute in shifting those social norms and creating alternate social norms. So that is where educational institutions and institutions of higher learning, I think, play a very critical role in enabling students to think about how to shift and how to create alternate social norms, to find public space as their own space. Because what has happened is, we have talked about care roles and why women, erratic work hours, safety. Definitely these are challenges, but a public place becomes safer when there are more women. Because, for example, if we look at it, our clothing patterns, people in urban areas are used to women wearing trousers today. Why? Because most of the women are wearing them. And that is how we are all socialized. What we see very often, we take it as an accepted thing. That is what we will do more often, it will get accepted. And that's my personal view, that more often we try to breach these. And some of these smashing glass ceilings, definitely these are not very easy things to do. Policy environments have to do, political commitment at the highest levels have to do it. And I think the kind of leaders, for example, whether we see in New Zealand or Germany, the women heads of the states have proved themselves that, governance and competence is what comes to women very naturally, but it is that very few women get that opportunity. And I'm sure towards the end, when, this whole idea of enabling men being sensitive, because gender equality is not, or feminism is not about, one being better than the other. It is both getting opportunity to be their best. And that is where we have to work. And I think when we are nurturing our girls for 21st century, we have to have this sensitivity that, when you grow, you enable others to grow with you. There are people who may not be, it may come from their insecurities, their anxieties, because, your media may have created a space that when a woman goes after the work to work, she becomes more shrewd, she can challenge you and all that, and when more understanding women become partners, and they share the responsibilities, they share the concerns, they share responsibilities. That is what I think is more enabling, and creates less of a threat or a rift within the families, because society is nothing but, a sum total of lot of families coming together. So I think I feel educational institutions have a very important role to play. And when we are talking in context of COVID-19, I think digital spaces, which have created a lot of opportunities, are again one space when, in the beginning, when Ms. Arora was making her presentation, and she said, what can young people do to enable these women who are part of self-help groups to sell their products and all that. I think those are wonderful ideas, and some of our girls definitely would, love to contribute to any such initiatives if they can use their skills and support such kind of activities. Gayatri asked me, definitely, a lot of experience and learning is built on working with self-help groups, and whatever ways we can contribute. I may not have a personal experience of having worked in Uttarakhand, but definitely in some other states. But issues, challenges are common, and Therefore, these women who come out of educational institutions, when they take up roles in these diverse, right from digital space to interpersonal communication to social media, to work in leadership roles, this is how I think we all will change our society for better. And we will make spaces which will be more gender just for the next generation of young girls who will come to occupy this world. Gayatri, is that okay? I can pass it on back to you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think what I'm taking away from your presentation is that it's really a duty upon all of us to smash the glass ceiling. We should really be looking at it as a duty and not just an aspiration. Would anyone like to have the last word to ask a question, or I know Dr. Mansi had to leave because she has an IC meeting, but would anyone like to ask anything? You can put it in the chat, or you could just unmute yourself and ask.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question, like, what is the role of families or parents in shaping women leaders? Like how they can build like favorable environment for women to come up as women leaders?
Do you want to?
Okay, maybe I can, and then maybe if either Damayanti or Jyoti would like to say anything, or if Dr. Sarita would like to say anything. My own sense is that the role of families are not necessarily empowering spaces. They can be very empowering. If you have a supportive family, that can be extremely empowering. But they unfortunately are not, and in the Indian context, actually they are not, because if you see the number of cases, the maximum number of cases that women file of violence, of cruelty, it's against family members, mostly in-laws and husband. But of course, the discrimination starts with your natal family. It starts at home. And the poem that Anuradha had recited really brought that out very well, that it's, even though your mother may be thinking about your own safety, and she's thinking of the benefit of keeping her child safe, but it ends up promoting protectionism and disabling a person from being able to achieve that as much as she could be able to achieve. So I think the role of family is extremely important.
I can just add over here. Gayatri?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think first of all, I'd like to really compliment all the students who made the presentations, wonderful presentations. It is always very enriching to hear from you, and the kind of insights which you all brought was really, really great. And as far as this question on family is concerned, I think I would like to take it the other way around and say that in families, not only for girls, but I think at this point we need to say that it's very, very important that what role families can play in raising boys, because we cannot just be concentrating only on girls. It's that men and boys also need to be engaged with, and that's the kind of environment which needs to be built, where they learn that they have a role in society, which is they have an equal stake in a gender just world or family and much more. So I think I would like to emphasize on that aspect of it.
Yeah. Thank you. I think Gayatri and Damayanti and Vaishali, maybe I could add, what role. I think family has a very important role, but the challenge is that we all are products of our socialization. And the parents have their own kind of peer pressure on what they have seen other parents doing it, or what they expect that the society expects parents to be, disciplining, or helping their child, or at least telling them where the boundaries lie. It is not very easy for any set of parents to take those decisions very easy. And I can say that being a mother, nurturing a son or a daughter with an idea that tomorrow you have to take up not only being a responsible person for yourself, being responsible for a family, and sharing responsibility. I think your families have a very important role to play. And when I say that being part of higher education system, I see a ray of hope. These girls who are today 21, 22, in maybe next 10 years, they will be in those positions when they will be parents. And this sensitive mother, this mother who has this question today in her mind, definitely will be a better mother tomorrow. She will bring up her son and daughters with that idea that, what a responsible brother or what a responsible father means. So definitely, when we say families have an important role to play, but we cannot bring everybody back to any kind of educational system. So therefore, those who are going through these any kind of systems and other, I think media has a very important role to play. It is a very fast mover in terms of making a dent on social norms. I think there is a lot of scope on our mass media specifically to create those positive men engaging responsible parents and fathers, and that is where you will create families which are more enabling towards their sons and daughters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can see two hands. Aisha, do you want to say something?
I just want to raise one point. Based on your presentations and everything that I've heard, I feel as girls, what we have learned all this while about equality and discrimination and stereotyping, it also helps if we go back and talk to our parents about it. Of course, family is a socializing agent, but based on the patriarchal values that they come from and the neighboring environment around them, I feel what we learn, we can just go back and talk to them and make these small changes at home. I've seen this around me, how things have changed, the kind of conversations I have with my father. It used to be very different, and now it's very open and more based on gender equality and empowerment. So I think that's just I want to raise here. Thank you.
Very valid, Aisha. Yes.
I think Anshika wants to say something.
Yes, ma'am. So my question is like it is more of a comment. So I just wanted to point out that we live in a country where even like we are talking about these terms like glass ceiling or motherhood penalty or whatever, but in a country like India where marital rape is still legal, it is not considered a crime. These terms are, I think, uh, far beyond our reach. Like the very basic thing is people don't understand about these simple terms, and we are talking about leadership and everything. So I feel we should also we should also keep this in our mind and amplify it as much as we can.
Thanks, Anshika. But I also feel that we need to take small steps and in every direction and move forward. And there's actually no other choice right now. Okay, with this then, I'd like to thank again the FES. I'd like to thank Dr. Anand. I'd like to thank Shivani Arora and Mansi Mishra very much for having joined us today. I think Shivani has left the details of her organization on the chat, so you can check that for more information on the Bird Box. For the student certificates, for those who have not given their full names, please send your full names so that we can make the certificates and mail them to you. And again, thank you so much to the students who presented. And again, I know that your exams got over, so I'm really very grateful to you for having worked hard, even after having worked hard for your exam. Thank you all.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you from Lady Irwin College, Department of Development Communication, for keeping this path open for our students to participate. Thank you.